Hey there, pen peeps. Wanted to talk about a new pen and kind of a pet peeve of mine. The Aldo Domani pen by Monteverde is available right now. You can find it at a lot of major retailers. MSRP was about $40 on this particular pen. Well, I found this pen available for $13 and something on eBay. There was a distributor who was offering this pen, and basically in the description had said that there was an overrun of the production of these, and there were not enough nibs to go around, so they fitted them with a, quote, German nib. Okay, I'll bite for that kind of price. I've got spare nibs right here behind me in these bins, and just in case I don't like what I get. So it had a number 6 nib, and when I got it, sure enough, it was not a German nib. It was Iridium Point Germany, or IPG, which doesn't mean it's made in Germany. It could be cheap Chinese garbage. Now, Monteverde is a brand that is owned by Jaffa, who also owns more than just Monteverde. I mean, they also do Conklin, modern day Conklin. And I've had some problems with quality control over the past several years with Conklins and Monteverdes that I've purchased. Usually it's a crappy nib, it needs adjustment. Then again, I've also had some nibs that wrote perfectly right out of the box. This particular one, if it came through Jaffa Brands with an IPG nib, I'm disappointed. And if it came through a distributor who originally said it came with a German nib that was fitted to this pen, I'm even more disappointed. I recently went back to their site on eBay in preparation for this video, and it had been changed to saying a German nib to Iridium Point Germany. So somebody clued them in, or they finally realized that, yeah, what we advertised isn't exactly accurate, so we better change that. But the price didn't change, so it was still $13 and some cents. A beautiful lavender pen. I actually like the looks of the pen. I like how it feels. I like the construction of the pen itself. It's probably made in China, but it's nicely lacquered on the outside. You know, so you've got a lavender with a silver trim. Okay, lavender, not my first choice of colors, but my wife sure likes that particular color. So I went ahead and bought it. And I was on a business trip here just recently, and I didn't have a lot of time sitting in my hotel room, but I did bring along 3 different pens that I wanted to review. This was one of them, and I actually did a recording of this when I had the IPG nib in it. I just inked 1 or 2 of them up, and I brought a vial of ink for the third. I was just so busy that whole week, last week, that I really didn't have the time to do any more than just this one. Been debating whether or not to use that footage that I cut, because, you know, when I got home, I said, I'm going to do something about that stupid IPG nib. So I replaced it. I replaced the number 6 nib that was in here with a Knox nib, K-N-O-X. And quite honestly, that Knox nib that I put in here is probably better than Jaffa Brands typically would fit into their pens anyway. I always know that a Knox nib, even though they are not the top-end nibs, they're always going to be very smooth and very reliable. I've got several pens with Knox nibs around the house, not disappointed with a single one of them, and I think I used my last Knox nib replacement that was sitting here. So I'm going to have to order some more. $12 to $15 for a nib, depending upon where you get them. I mean, you can get number 6 replacement nibs from Bach or Jovo, through Anderson pens, Goulet pens, Birmingham pens, and that kind of thing. So I'm going to have to stock up on some more nibs. I've got Bulow, which is nothing more than a Jinhao. I've got Jinhao nibs as well, but I went ahead and put in the Knox nib into this. So it does uncap by twisting, and that's the replacement nib that I put into it. You got a plastic section here, which isn't too bad. You got to step down with those threads. It holds very nicely in the hand. It's well balanced. You can post it if you want. And it is a very nicely balanced weighted pen, not too far back weighted that way. So it wrote scratchy as heck. Horrible with that IPG nib. IPG nibs, it's a crapshoot. You never know if you're going to get a good one or a bad one. I've got some pens here with IPG nibs that write great. But every time I see IPG, I'm like, is it going to suck or is it going to write well? And it's confusing because it's not really made in Germany. It is a German style nib, and it's not really Iridium, even though it says Iridium Point. I'll link to an article on IPG nibs here below because I've actually railed on this before and had a rant about it, and once again I got bitten by it. So a $13 pen. I'm looking right now at let's say penboutique.com, which is not where I bought it, by the way. $32 right now, and MSRP $40. So this is a $32 pen. I bought it for $16. I slapped a $15 nib in it. You do the math. I mean, I'm in it for $31 and they're $32. Now, of course, that $31 price tag included shipping. So my $16 pen, or maybe it was $13 and something. I'll take a look. Actually, is closer to the $30 or just under $30 price range. But I've got a nice one that writes very, very well at this point. It did not prior. So what do you do? Let me give you a few statistics on this particular pen. They are still readily available on the marketplace today. And you can find them. So if you're looking for something that's, it's nothing special, but it is actually very nice. They come in various colors. I mean, there's some oranges and some reds and some blues. This particular one in lavender just piqued my curiosity. You've got the jewel-looking cap on the end, the jewel cap-looking button on the top, and it says Aldo Domani. Right there on the cap, I do believe. And yep, sure does. Aldo Domani. So, Monteverde, I mean, they make some decent pens. They really do. I've been disappointed with their nibs, however, and this happens to be one of them. So let's see how this writes with the new Knox nib, not the IPG nib, and no, not the nib that Jaffa brands would have equipped this pen with. So maybe it's not really a fair comparison. So the Aldo Domani, it comes in that box like you saw. It does come with a standard international cartridge, which I have not used. Set that aside, and it comes like that. So it doesn't come in the typical, fake leather green with a stitching Monteverde box. It is not one of their higher end pens, so you're going to find that it does come in almost a Lamy style box. Right? So a little bit about Monteverde that comes on it. Founded in '99, is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Jaffa Pen Company, and so Jaffa owns several brands, and of course Monteverde among them. So this is what it is. I picked up the lilac with a medium nib. At the top it says Monteverde. It's got that silver in the black jewel up at the top, silver clip, silver band that says Aldo Domani right on it. And at the bottom you've got the silver trim with the black jewel at the base of the barrel. It does twist to open, and you can see this is the nib. That's not the one they typically would have had. It does not have the Monteverde logo on it, but supposedly it is a medium nib, so we'll see how well this one performs. It steps down from the threads down to a moderate size section here. It's all black, and it is a cartridge converter pen. I showed you that it came with a cartridge. It did not come with a converter. I had to dig into my supply and get myself one of these standard international converters and put it into the pen itself. And then I filled it with a Pelican 4001 violet, trying to match the pen to the the color of the pen up with the ink somewhat. It is a lacquered metal. It feels so you can feel it here. That is it's not a high grade metal, but you can feel it. You can hear it when you're screwing on and off. So you do have a little bit of that feel there. And of course it's only got a steel nib, and that's not a problem. I don't expect more than that, and I don't expect flex out of it whatsoever. You can post it, and you know it's fairly comfortable. It's about the size of my Waterman Phileas that I've got, but it's a little heavier because the Waterman Phileas is an acrylic, whereas this is more of a metal. When you post it, it does backweight that pen significantly because that is kind of a hefty cap to it. But actually, it does at least post nicely and securely, and it's not going anywhere when you've got it on. You got to really, yank to get that off when you get it on nice and secure. All right. So I'll tell you what. If you like a girthy pen, this is not bad. It's not really chunky, and it's definitely not thin. It's kind of in between, but it is comfortable to hold. I'm going to unpost it, and to me it's a little more comfortable unposted than it is posted. Because I'm traveling, I've got a smaller Rhodia pad, and I'll give you a writing sample here in a minute after I go ahead and give you all the statistics for this particular pen. So let's go ahead and give it a shot. So it's a Monteverde. This particular model, once again, is the Aldo Domani. This one has a steel German nib. But since I'm traveling, to be honest with you, I didn't bring my loop with me, so I don't really know if this is just an Iridium Point Germany. Actually, it is. That's exactly what it is. It just says Iridium Point Germany, so it's an IPG. It's not necessarily made in Germany. It's probably actually made in the Orient somewhere, in an Asian country. I can put a link to an IPG article that explains that, but IPG or Iridium Point Germany does not necessarily mean it's made in Germany, and that's sad, and it's misleading in the pen community. It's frustrating, I know, and quite honestly, I don't always get a really good IPG nib. This one here is moderate. I mean, this was probably in between. It's not the top of the charts as far as I'm concerned. It writes a little bit on the fine side, even though it says that it's a medium. You do have a little bit of flex, as you saw. It's definitely not very smooth. It's a little scratchy for me. Alright, so one of the lessons learned about pen collecting is have some spare nibs. Whether it comes from a pen that you've just ripped apart, a pen that's broken, whatever, have some spare parts laying around. Order a few spare nibs, and you will save yourself a lot of headaches and a lot of foul language, perhaps. So let's look at see how she does. This particular one, the Monteverde Aldo Domani. It's not an uncomfortable pen to hold, and you could probably use this pen for quite some time. I showed you either a posted or unposted. I think I'm going to find it more comfortable unposted because it is a lot lighter. It's not horribly unbalanced, and it doesn't back weight too much, but it's probably a little more comfortable and definitely lighter doing it this way. So I put in a replacement Knox medium nib. If you've got a pen, whether it's cheap or whether it's expensive, if it's got a crappy nib, it's a crappy pen. If you've got a nib that writes well, whether it's a really, really cheap pen or it's a really, really expensive pen, then you've got a great writer. I know people who take Jinhao pens and put in $12 or $15 nibs, so you spend $2 to $3 on the pen and let's say $15 on a nib for under $20, you've got a great writing pen. I've not done that so much, but I do keep spare nibs for just such an occasion, because I've learned the hard way that I may have a really crappy writer that I just need something new. I've got a pen over here that I've been wanting to have it write well for quite some time. I've replaced nibs and feeds, and so far no success. I'm going to keep trying with it until I find one that makes it right, because I made an investment in that particular pen. So the ink that I put into this particular pen is a Pelikan, the 4001, and that is a really nice purple ink. If you notice there, it smudges fairly well. The Knox nib does well, but that violet is a little on the darker side coming out of this particular pen, but it is a nice violet ink. So this particular Knox nib writes a little bit on the fine side of medium, but it is nonetheless a medium nib. And it's a little stiff, but it sure writes a whole lot better than that crappy IPG. So I'll show you what that IPG nib looks like. And well, anyway, the Aldo Domani, if you can find it at a decent price, and you can probably, like I said, find it for 13 bucks if you get a spare nib you want to throw in it and give it a shot. You know, you may have a decent writer. I haven't tried the cheap Jinhao nib that I thought about throwing in it, or the Bulow nib, because I had still a Knox nib on hand. So probably for even less money, I would have had one that wrote better than that horrible IPG nib. So the Aldo Domani by Monteverde is still readily available. I mean, I like the pen itself, the construction of the pen itself, the lacquer of the pen, the way it feels in the hand, all that's great. And hopefully you can get one that has a better nib. And I wish I had the factory nib that came with it in order to show you a comparison, but I don't.